This was the biggest problem for the Denver Broncos offense in their tight victory over the New York Jets. So yesterday, we saw the Denver Broncos offense really struggle, especially in the second half. They just couldn't get anything going. Some of that was on play calling, some of that was on penalties, but it just felt like they were never in a rhythm in that second half. Why? The Broncos, especially in weeks 3 through 5, have been establishing an identity around their run game. But in this game, the run game really struggled. I want to go ahead and bring in the Broncos' rushing numbers per game on the season. Pretty much every single game, the Broncos have had some relatively high production out of their run game. You look at week 1, 5.0 yards per carry, 151 rushing yards against the Titans. 4.9 yards per carry, over 100 yards against the Colts. 5.6 yards per carry, 118 yards against the Chargers. This was the game where it felt like the run game was really starting to wake up. Then they had a breakout game against Cincinnati, 4.9 yards per carry, 38 carries, 186 yards. Against Philadelphia, the Broncos really leaned into their run game in the second half. They stayed committed to it. 29 carries, 4.5 yards per carry, 130 yards. In this game against the Jets, looking at the numbers, it appears the Broncos stayed committed for the most part to running the football, but it was nowhere near as effective. 3.0 yards per carry, no rushing touchdowns, the first game of the season where that happened, and just 78 rushing yards. Then we look even further. The Broncos' run game success rate dropped significantly in Week 6 compared to Weeks 3 through 5. In Week 6, they posted a 26.92% success rate on 26 rushing attempts, while in Weeks 3 through 5, they achieved a much higher 44.32% success rate across 88 rushing attempts. So what gives here? Why are the Denver Broncos suddenly struggling to run the football? When you look at it, it's really not that difficult to figure out. This was the Broncos' first game without Ben Powers in the lineup. And I know early in the season, especially after week 1, Ben Powers got a lot of crap from fans and media. He got a lot of crap from me too. Even in training camp in the preseason, Powers was struggling. But he really started to settle in, especially because the Broncos were leaning more into power and man-rushing concepts, which is what Ben Powers does well. They still do a lot of zone runs, but a lot of the power and man stuff, in weeks 3 through 5, we saw an uptick in those numbers, and Ben Powers was a big reason why this Broncos run game was starting to flourish. J.K. Dobbins was running behind Ben Powers quite a bit. He's a true road grader out there. Unfortunately, he suffered a torn bicep in Week 5 at the end of the game against the Eagles, the last drive for the Broncos offense, and now he's in line to miss about 2 months. He's on IR. We're not going to see him until at least December. Denver's going to have to figure out how to live without Ben Powers, and I want to go ahead and bring in the PFF run blocking grades. I know PFF grades aren't everybody's cup of tea, but they do provide a good baseline of information on how a player is playing based on their film, and these are the grades in run blocking from yesterday's game, and you'll see here, Matt Peart was easily the Broncos' worst graded run blocking offensive lineman, a 40.9 grade. He was putrid out there. He was getting blown up off the ball. He had multiple holding penalties. It just did not look good out there from Matt Peart in either pass protection or run blocking, but especially run blocking. Sports Info Solutions puts out a stat for blown run blocks, but they haven't updated it for this week. But I imagine he's going to have multiple blown run blocks. That's what showed up on tape. I counted at least 3 on tape, but there might be even more than that. I don't know, but we'll see what Matt Peart is going to do here long term. Is he going to get better? I don't know. Will the Broncos give him the chance to get better? That's the even bigger question. Will Denver keep him in the starting lineup? I've been a big-time advocate for the Denver Broncos starting Calvin Throckmorton. I think Throckmorton is going to provide you a higher ceiling as a run blocker than what Matt Peart has been providing. However, I will acknowledge there is going to be a bit of a downgrade in pass protection. It seems that that's what the Broncos want to prioritize on their offensive line. It's the same reason why Luke Wattenberg is the starting center over Alex Forsythe, but I've been talking about these last few weeks how if Denver really wants to establish the run game, they might have to sacrifice a little bit in pass protection. It's the same argument for Luke Wattenberg, but Wattenberg, to his credit, has gotten better over these last few weeks. He hasn't been as big of a liability. I still think Denver is looking for a starting center long term, and if they've got the opportunity to maybe add one at the trade deadline, they'll still do it, but I think Denver, they're going to probably try Calvin Throckmorton. If he doesn't work at left guard, they might have to make an outside addition. We talked about Trevor Penning in a previous video from the New Orleans Saints. That move wouldn't overwhelm me, but it might be a slight upgrade over what the Broncos currently have, because we're hoping that Ben Powers is going to be back in December, but it's probably not a guarantee. We've got to make sure that we've got a contingency plan in place in the event that Ben Powers has to miss the rest of this season. In the event that he has some sort of setback in his rehab or something like that, Denver needs to be prepared. Right now, it's very clear that Denver doesn't have adequate depth on the interior offensive line. I know some people have been saying, why not try Alex Palczewski? I don't think Denver wants to do that because they like Alex Palczewski in his current role as that jumbo sixth offensive lineman. He checks into the game multiple times, and they use him quite a bit in that role. So I don't think Denver wants to go in that direction unless they absolutely have to. But eventually their hands might get tied, and they might not have a choice. I could definitely see an outside addition coming, especially if Peart continues to struggle or if Throckmorton gets in there and he continues to struggle, because at bare minimum, Denver needs to add some more depth long term. Trevor Penning could do that. Again, not the greatest option in the world in my opinion, but certainly not the worst option either for long-term depth, short-term starter. Alright guys, be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are both free and easy ways to show your support. It helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, and it helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. Additionally, if you guys want to go above and beyond in supporting the channel, please consider becoming a channel member today. I would really appreciate it. It's not mandatory whatsoever, but if you want some extra perks and incentives in exchange for helping me out and helping the channel grow, I would really appreciate it. Link is in the description below. Alright guys, and until next time, I'm your host Gage Madrid, saying peace out.